Hello and welcome to India Business Hour. I'm Parikshit Luthra. Here are the headlines we are tracking this evening. Corporate Affairs Ministry pushes the pedal on regulating unlisted startups amid a crisis at Byju's and Paytm. Sources say that the government is considering having larger checks and balances for bigger unlisted startups. Recommendations are due in 3 months. Nearly a month after RBI's Paytm crackdown, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman meets over a dozen fintech executives. The huddle is aimed at encouraging innovation while ensuring regulatory compliance. CNBC-TV18 learns that Govt's financial creditors are not comfortable with the terms put forward in both the bids that have come in. Say neither bid offers upfront money that will cover insolvency resolution costs, meaning creditors may not get anything upfront, adding that both proposals heavily link repayments to the outcome of a lawsuit against engine manufacturer Pratt & Whitney. That's a CNBC-TV18 exclusive. Ministers from 160 nations gather in Abu Dhabi for a crucial meeting of the World Trade Organization. India seeks a resolution on public stock holding of agri products. Other flashpoints, including limiting subsidies on fisheries and regulating online commerce, are also on the agenda. The board of Vodafone Idea is set to meet tomorrow to consider the fundraising proposal. Sources tell CNBC-TV18 that promoter Aditya Birla Group is likely to infuse funds via the preferential route. However, the group's listed entities, Grasim or Hindalco, are unlikely to participate. The government is on track to meet the revised capex goal of 9.5 lakh crore rupees. Sources also say government will meet the small savings collections target thanks to a big jump in senior citizen scheme. US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said negotiators have reached an understanding on the contours of a potential ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas. Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu said a ceasefire would only delay Israel's planned assault on Rafah. Senior Hamas official says Netanyahu's comments cast doubt over Israel's willingness to secure a ceasefire deal. Russia-Ukraine war enters the third year. Russian army launches attack drones and missiles targeting Ukraine. Zelensky claims close to 31,000 Ukrainian soldiers have died since the beginning of the war. Ukrainian defense minister says that the country was losing territory because 50% of weapons promised by Western partners failed to reach on time. Reliance Foundation launches Vantara, India's first of its kind animal rescue and rehabilitation centre at the conglomerate's Jamnagar refinery complex. RIL director Anant Ambani, who spearheads the program, tells Network 18 that the facility has more than 100 species of animals and a dedicated team of 3,000 people to manage them. Popular ghazal singer Pankaj Udhas dies at 72 after suffering from a prolonged illness. He was known for his soulful renditions in several Hindi films and non-film albums. In his 4-decade-long career, Udhas was honoured with the Padma Shri in 2006. Let's start with the market action. Sensex and Nifty ended in the red after a volatile session. Stocks remained largely steady for most of the day, but a late sell-off caught the bulls off guard. Sensex lost over 350 points and the Nifty lost 90 points. Banks and IT stocks led the decline. The mid-caps also fell in tandem with the blue chips. Let's move on to the big story this evening. The Union government is working on a fresh set of regulations for unlisted startups. The move comes amid a crisis at EdTech Byju's and fintech Paytm. The Ministry of Corporate Affairs is set to release new recommendations within 3 months. Shivani Bajaj has the details. Shivani, new rules on the anvil. What is the kind of feedback, the stakeholder consultation that the MCA is doing at this stage?
Well, absolutely. Amid the concerns at several big startups like Byju's and Paytm Payments Bank, the Ministry of Corporate Affairs is addressing concerns raised by regulators. And now sources have told CNBC-TV18 that the Company Law Committee is expected to come up with recommendations for larger unlisted startups in the next 3 months. The Company Law Committee, which is the CLC, under MCA, is working on a report considering a new definition and proposing additional checks and balances for significantly big startups based on factors like their net worth, capital raised and turnover. Now, sources have told CNBC-TV18 that the report will highlight provisions to enhance controls for investors and board directors. Sources also tell us that MCA has asked the ROC to expedite the inspection in the case of EdTech startup Byju's. Remember, CNBC-TV18 had reported last year that the MCA is looking to enhance the regulatory framework for mature startups by way of mandating a quarterly report submission for better regulation. Sources also say that ICAI and ICSI are also being asked to provide feedback for these upcoming regulations. Back to you.
Thanks, Shivani, for joining us. And speaking of startups, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman met top fintech companies today. The huddle is aimed at encouraging innovation while ensuring regulatory compliance. Those are the pictures coming in from the meeting that took place earlier today. Now, in a relief for SpiceJet, aircraft lessor Celestial Aviation has decided to withdraw its insolvency plea against the airline. SpiceJet informed NCLT that the $30 million payment dispute with the lessor has been settled outside of court. Here's a CNBC-TV18 exclusive now. Bidders for Govt have chalked out their plan to buy the cash-strapped airline. However, sources have told CNBC-TV18 that the lenders are not comfortable with their upfront offer, citing that it might be insufficient. Bidders have proposed to pay financial lenders only after the airline's Pratt & Whitney settlement is paid. Ritu Singh is standing by with all the details. Ritu, what are your sources telling us about this latest offer?
Well, this is not good news for the lenders of Govt because from what we've been able to gather, there is little that bidders for the airline have offered upfront, with the proposed payments heavily contingent on future settlements from a lawsuit filed by Govt against engine maker Pratt & Whitney. Now, we've been given to understand that neither bidder, the Ajay Singh Nishan Pitti Consortium and Sky One, has offered a significant upfront payment to even fully cover the airline's insolvency resolution cost or CIRP cost, leaving nothing for the financial creditors as upfront payment. Now, the CIRP cost is estimated at close to 600 crores for Govt, and as per the waterfall mechanism for repayment of dues under IBC, the CIRP cost is to be repaid first, followed by financial creditors and then others like operational creditors and so on. Now, sources indicate that the Ajay Singh Nishan Pitti Consortium has only offered 290 crores as upfront payment, but apart from this, the consortium has offered to settle the dues of financial creditors in full from the proceeds that they receive from arbitration proceedings against Pratt & Whitney in future. Now, the airline's former CEO had claimed last year that the airline is expecting $1.1 billion in compensation from Pratt & Whitney, but it is unclear when this case will be settled and how much Govt will eventually receive in damages, leaving recovery uncertainty for lenders. Similarly, we understand the other bidder, Sky One, has offered 410 crore rupees as upfront payment and another 25% from any settlement received from the Pratt & Whitney case to the financial creditors sometime in future. Remember, financial creditors, that is Central Bank of India, Bank of Baroda and IDBI Bank, have claimed more than 3,700 crores from Govt. So at this point, there's not much for them on the table. Of course, negotiations will now begin with the bidders, so we still have to see what final offers both of them come up with.
On to a CNBC-TV18 exclusive now. Lenders have favoured referring Jayaprakash Associates to the Company Law Tribunal for resolution under IBC. Sources told us that ICICI Bank has told NCLT there are no settlement talks ongoing as of now. Moving on, Reliance Industries has signed a binding agreement with Disney to merge their media operations in India. According to a Bloomberg report, Reliance's media units and affiliates are likely to own at least 61% in the merged entity. The deal is likely to be announced later this week. Reports also suggest that the Reliance company is considering the acquisition of Tata Play, where Disney owns a minority stake. Moving on, market regulator SEBI has warned investors about trading opportunities offered by those posing as affiliates of SEBI-registered FPI investors. The regulator has clarified that the FPI investment route is unavailable to resident Indians, with limited exceptions. The release also said that the victims of the fraud were lured through online trading courses, seminars and mentorship programs in the stock market. On to a CNBC-TV18 exclusive now. Vodafone Idea's fundraising plan is unlikely to see participation from any listed company of the Aditya Birla Group. However, we learn from sources that the promoter group is expected to infuse funds via preferential share route. The Vodafone Idea board is set to meet tomorrow to discuss the issue. Nisha Podar is here with more.
That's right, as investors of Vodafone Idea gear up to watch out for the board meet on 27th of February, where the board is going to take up the big fundraising plan by the company. All eyes are on that, but some important details coming out on this. First is an important clarification from at least two independent sources with direct knowledge of the developments there, and they have shared with CNBC-TV18 that none of the listed companies of Aditya Birla Group like Hindalco or Grasim, which own stake in Vodafone Idea, are likely to participate in the fundraising plan of Vodafone Idea. So it's an important clarification here. I would like to mention that the group had emphatically stated to the investors of rights issue of Grasim also that none of that proceeds are going to go to telecom venture. And on the other hand, there were some analyst speculations regarding the Hindalco's Novelis value unlocking by US listing could also lead to some funding for Vodafone Idea. And my sources do clarify that none of this is likely to happen. In fact, a large fundraise plan by the company is being charted out, which could be a combination and could be completed in the next few months is what I gather. Here, another important aspect to note is that the promoter entity and sources indicate that Aditya Birla Group is likely to infuse funds as part of the large fundraising plan. Now, remember, a few months back last year, the Vodafone Idea had shared that promoters could infuse 2,000 crore rupees for their capital requirements. Now, capital requirement is huge for this telecom firm when it comes to repaying government dues and also for capex requirements. So at the moment, Vodafone Idea as well as Aditya Birla Group, when reached out, did not offer any comment on the plans for the fundraise. So all eyes on that particular board meeting.
All right. Thank you very much, Nisha, for reporting on that big story for us. A quick check at all the global headlines. Russian army launched attacks, drones and missiles targeting Ukraine as the war entered the third year. Ukraine President Zelensky has claimed that 31,000 soldiers have been killed since Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Ukraine's defense minister has warned that the country was losing territory because 50% of the weapons promised by the West were arriving late. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said negotiators have reached an understanding on the contours of a potential ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas. Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu said a ceasefire would only delay Israel's planned assault on Rafah. Senior Hamas official Sami Abu Zuhri said Netanyahu's comments cast doubts over Israel's willingness to secure a ceasefire deal. Big win for former President Donald Trump at the South Carolina Republican primary. He defeats rival Nikki Haley in her home state, marks his fourth straight victory in the primaries and moves closer to clinching the Republican nomination. Haley vows to stay in the race despite losing by a big margin. The 13th World Trade Organization Ministerial Conference kicks off today. Over 160 nations are attending the conference in Abu Dhabi. India has sought for a resolution on public stockholding of agri products. The issue is closely linked to the minimum support price regime for crops, which has evoked protests by farmers worldwide. Moreover, India will also lobby for an overhaul of the dispute settlement mechanism, a liberal regime for fisheries, and oppose an investment facilitation proposal backed by China. Abhimanyu Sharma gets us more on the Abu Dhabi agenda.
After a decline in 2023, global trade is set to grow by 3.3% in 2024, according to the WTO. While de-risking from China is still a priority, it is also clear that China's important position in supply chains is not going to change anytime soon. Global trade has significantly changed since the WTO was founded in 1995, as ministers from 160 member nations meet for the 13th WTO Ministerial Conference in Abu Dhabi. Here is a look at the key 5 issues slated to be discussed. Number 1 is agriculture. The European Union is unwilling to lower subsidies or import duties as being sought by the US, Brazil, Argentina, Australia and Canada. For India and several other developing countries, the focus will remain on ensuring a solution on the issue of public stock holding so that there is no constraint in procurement of food grain. A G33 ministerial statement has backed India's stand. There is also a demand to revise the reference price from the base year of 1986 to reflect the current market realities. The issue is closely linked to the minimum support price or the MSP regime for crops, which has evoked protests by farmers worldwide. The second issue is fisheries. The WTO agreement on fisheries subsidies was concluded at the previous ministerial, which had limited government subsidies on fishing in unregulated high seas and on vulnerable fishing stocks. While the EU had formally accepted the agreement, terming it crucial for sustainability, India has maintained that it can continue to support its small fishermen as the regulations are only for illegal, unreported and unregulated fishing. However, India is not in favor of any further disciplines and wants a liberal regime with a 25-year transition period for developing countries, and has said that the current system benefits rich nations. The third issue is dispute settlement, where the entire dispute resolution system has been rendered as redundant due to the American opposition to appointments to the appellate body. India has been pitching for a comprehensive overhaul instead of a piecemeal approach. The fourth issue is investment facilitation, which is being pushed as part of the agenda by China and 120 other nations and is being opposed by India and South Africa. Last but clearly not the least is the issue of e-commerce moratorium and work program. Developed countries want the moratorium on levy of customs duty on electronic transmission, including movies and e-books, to continue. But India and several other developing countries want the moratorium to be lifted, as it is resulting in a loss of around $10 billion in customs duty. India wants discussions to continue on the scope and objective of the e-commerce moratorium in view of many physical goods getting digitized over a course of time, and it's going to back the promotion of competition in e-commerce. While India is keen that issues around remittances and a regime for telemedicine and health workers are a part of the work program, it has opposed the inclusion of new issues like sustainability, environment, MSMEs and gender as disguised trade barriers.
All right, thanks Abhimanyu for joining us, and you can also watch out for our WTO coverage coming up at 9:30 p.m. You can also catch all the other stories on CNBC-TV18.com and our website as well. Moving on to the other big story we are tracking. Shares of pharma major Alkem Labs plunged over 14% in early trade. This after reports suggested that the Income Tax Department found tax evasion worth 1,000 crore rupees. The report highlighted that the company made fraudulent deductions for its Sikkim manufacturing operations. However, the company issued a clarification categorically denying allegations of rumors and alleged tax evasion. India's per capita monthly household consumption expenditure has more than doubled in 22-23 compared to 2011-2012. This according to NSSO's latest consumer expenditure survey. The survey also found that the average per capita expenditure per month stood at slightly above 3,700 rupees, while that figure stood at almost 6,500 for urban India. Speaking to CNBC Awaaz, Niti Aayog CEO BBR Subramaniam claimed that the survey indicates that the poverty in India has fallen to 5%. Take a look.
इस सर्वे में फ्रैक्टाइल माने देश के प्रजा को 20 कैटेगरीज में बांटा है कंजम्पशन के आधार पर। तो अगर हमें गरीबी लेखा लें और उसको कंज्यूमर प्राइस इंडेक्स से आज की दर तक हम इन्फ्लेट करें, हम देखते हैं कि जो सबसे नीचे वाला फ्रैक्टाइल है माने 0 to 5% वाला, उनकी जो एवरेज कंजम्पशन है वो भी लगभग उसी के बराबर है। इसका मतलब जो गरीबी है देश में ये 5% वाले ग्रुप में ही है।
5% से भी कम है, ये
कम है, ये मेरा आकलन है।
And coming up on India Business Hour, Reliance Foundation launches Vantara, India's first of its kind animal rescue and rehabilitation centre at the conglomerate's Jamnagar refinery complex. A special interview with Reliance Industries Director Anantam Bani. And you can also catch all CNBC TV18's news and updates on Facebook, X, Threads, Instagram and JioCinema. The union government is on track to meet its goals for small savings collections. Sources also say that the government is on course to meet the revised capital expenditure goal of 9.5 lakh crore rupees. Sapna Das is here with more.
Well, definitely, small savings collections continue to grow in a very strong manner. And I think the reasons are pretty much clear. It's because of the three instruments, that are basically center stage: the senior citizen scheme, the monthly income scheme, and the Mahila Saman Patra that was launched, in the current financial year. Of course, after the last budget, after the previous budget. So the collections have really gone up in all the three buckets. If you look at the senior citizen scheme, around 90,000 crores has come in. It is 143% higher than last financial year. Similarly, MIS is the mop-up is 4 times up. in comparison to last year. And the Mahila Saman Patra, of course, 19,000 crores. It's a new scheme, so we can't have a buy-on-buy comparison, but the numbers are very robust. All in all, government is on course to meet the collection target of around the net aim is around under 4.50 lakh odd crore. And the reasons are pretty much clear. They had done certain important modifications to at least the MIS and the senior citizen scheme, and because of that, the collections are robust and they're sitting in a very sweet spot. Last but not the least, even in terms of capex, 80% of the target has been met. But let's keep in mind, this year's capex had been revised downwards by around 50,000 crores, and 7.6 lakh odd crores is what the government has done so far.
All right. Thank you, Sapna, for joining us with that important update on the small savings scheme. Let's move on. Reliance Foundation has unveiled Vantara, touted to be the world's largest zoo and India's first of its kind animal rescue and rehabilitation centre at the conglomerate's Jamnagar complex. Vantara translates to the Star of Forest. Reliance Industries Director Anant Ambani is spearheading this ambitious project with the vision to make it instrumental in global conservation efforts. Speaking to CNBC Awaz's Anuj Singhal, Anant Ambani spoke more about Vantara, his passion project.
हमने ये पूरा एक सेवालय बनाया है। यहाँ खाली जानवरों की सेवा होती है, हाथियों, अलग अलग प्रजाति के जानवर की सेवा, रेस्क्यू सेंटर बनाया है और हाथी का एक कैंप, हाथी रेस्क्यू सेंटर बनाया है। यहाँ हमारे पास लगभग 200 से ज़्यादा हाथी हमने रेस्क्यू करके लाए हैं और जानवरों में हमने लगभग 20 से 25 हज़ार जानवर रेस्क्यू किए हैं। यहाँ 100 से अधिक अलग अलग प्रजाति के जानवर हमने लाए हैं। दुर्लभ प्रजातियों का भी हम संरक्षण करते हैं।
देखिए, मैं एक चीज़ कहूँगा, भले ही आप इसको नहीं मानते हो, आप पूरे पैशन से कर रहे हो, लेकिन ये तो इस समय इस दुनिया में जहाँ कार्बन क्रेडिट्स और जीरो कार्बन का इतना चल रहा है, ये तो आपके लिए एक आगे जाके बहुत बड़ा बिजनेस साइड ऑफ व्यू से भी बहुत आपके लिए कार्बन क्रेडिट में एक लॉटरी बन सकती है।
ये तो हम खाली जैसा आपको कहा सेवालय है, यहाँ में बिजनेस का नहीं सोचना, आप तो बिजनेस चैनल से है, बट ये सेवालय का मौका बहुत कम लोगों को मिलता है। भगवान ने हमें चुना और माताजी और पिताजी का आशीर्वाद रहा, इसीलिए हम ये सब कार्य कर रहे हैं। इसमें कोई बिजनेस एंगल नहीं लाना है, ना तो हम इसे, बल्कि फाउंडेशन जरूर मदद करता है, फाउंडेशन के बिना कुछ नहीं होगा। ये ट्रस्ट है, हमारे ट्रस्टीज है और इसमें बट हमें कोई बिजनेस के साथ जोड़ना नहीं, ना तो इसे हम मनोरंजन के लिए इसका इस्तेमाल करेंगे, ना इसे हमेशा हम एक नॉन प्रॉफिट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, कोई मुनाफा के लिए नहीं, खाली जानवर का सेवा के लिए रखेंगे।
All right. On that note, we will end this broadcast. But before we go, this edition of India Business Hour is also honouring renowned ghazal singer Pankaj Udas. Yes, he has died at the age of 72. His daughter confirmed the news on Instagram, saying he was suffering from a prolonged illness. The ghazal maestro is well known for his contribution to Indian cinema and the pop music industry. Famous for his velvet voice, he has many popular songs to his credit, including Chitti Aayi Hai, और आहिस्ता and जीते तो जिए कैसे. Udas was honoured with the Padma Shri, India's fourth highest civilian honour in 2006. That's all we have on the programme. Many thanks for watching. Goodbye.